Hello, everybody. Hope everyone had a good dinner or still eating dinner. Show number 2. I got a good video. But the bad news or good news is 3 hours. One of our favorites, Nick Shirley. He just came out 2 hours ago with a big video.
Hinge has new features that show you easier than ever who your man could be in a few simple clicks. I love their prompts because
Jeez. 2 hours. He already has 10,000 views on it. So we're going to play
warned us that as the frequency
only for a little bit, buddy. Carol! Were you busy earlier? We had another big show this afternoon. Oh, you're lurking. All right. Did you hear what I said at the beginning? One of your favorites just came out with a huge video. Nick Shirley, 2 hours ago. 10,000 views already. You want me to send you his link to that video? I'm gonna play it. You think a lot of people want me to play it?
We want to see America succeed, or do
I just sent it to you. Lucy's got to work late tonight. I'm not going to play it till another hour yet. I'm going to wait till 7 o'clock. Yeah, I think, there's a lot of new ones on TikTok, isn't there, Hero? Girls, women, ladies. How long is the video?
Hello, Cam. I'd like your advice now that you've had to ruminate for a moment on what.
Okay. Where's everybody at?
This is chilling. This is.
Hey, guys. Yep, we got a big one tonight. I was telling Carol, everybody likes Nick Shirley, and he just came out 2 hours ago with a 3-hour video, and he already has 10,000 views on it. So it must be a big one. So I'm going to stay out as long as I can. Because I got 3 other big 15-minute ones. That Adam Keefe guy, or John Keefe, and the one guy about Tina Peters video, and then a third one I think I got. Plus all the short videos. Well, we got 12 showing, but 2 in chat. I want to start right at 6 o'clock. 3 more minutes. I'm going to start. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully, everybody will be getting in chat. Oh, here we go.
At an appeals court said, no way, this sentence is too harsh, and it has been sent back to the judge, and it is being called to resentence. And with the new laws and everything going on out in Colorado
14.
and the disparity between this and another sentence, it is expected that Tina Peters will be given credit for time served and released from jail. So you can cheer that decision. For those who don't know, Tina Peters is a 72-year-old gold star mom.
Big news, you guys, on that, huh?
She lost her son serving this country, and she is sitting in prison for simply attempting to protect election integrity in Mesa County, Colorado.
Yeah.
And I think one of the main reasons this is being called up is because on February 27th, 2026, if you want to hear something shocking, folks, Democratic State Senator Sonia Yaquez Lewis was convicted of forging letters to influence a public servant. This is the exact same felony category as some of Tina's charges. And get this, Lewis got 2 years probation, 150 hours of community service, and a $3,000 fine that gets waived with a little extra service. No prison, not even close. Folks, this isn't justice. This is two-tier justice. One for conservatives fighting for fair elections and one for liberals who break the rules. The contrast is appalling. The system is corrupt. And today we're exposing it. Stick with me, folks, because the facts will shock you. I'm about to bring on our guest, but with news this shocking, you're going to need a good night's sleep. So go check out my friends at MyPillow. That's mypillow.com/lumberjack for big savings on the best sleep products available. You can also call them at 1-800-568 2865. Free shipping on your order right now. Giza sheets for 50% off, and the My Towels, the best towels you'll ever use. Go check it out at mypillow.com/lumberjack. And now I want to bring on my special guest, and that's Holly Kaysen. Holly has been involved in the election integrity movement in Colorado. She has covered Tina Peters' court case, and she has also dealt with her own legal battles trying to ensure election integrity. Holly, good to have you on today.
Nice to see you, Neil.
Yes, thanks for joining today. Holly, talk to me just a little bit about this. What is the preservation law out there in Colorado?
news,
How long
Eric,
do they need to
did you
preserve
hear
those
it?
records? Was she right in wanting to preserve those records? And then what in terms of the charges on how she did it? That's what she was charged with, basically. What did that look like?
Right. So Tina is a county clerk here in Colorado, and just like other states,
Tina Peters just got the reverse sentence on her. She might maybe be getting out. I don't know what this guy here is going to say.
there are state requirements and federal requirements for how long election records must be preserved. In Colorado, it's 22 months and 25 months for state and federal
15, about
record keeping
14.
laws. So when Tina preserved the records from, I believe, the 2020 election, she was basically conducting her duty as county clerk.
So the real problem, there were the detailed court records. Look through some of those. August 2024 trial, Tina allowed an IT consultant named Conan Hayes, self-described white hat security expert, to use the credentials of a man named Jerry Wood. This was during the trusted build. Cameras were turned off. Dominion's software update process would then wipe critical data needed to verify the election. My understanding is potentially she could have deputized somebody legally. Instead, she used existing credentials to get the job done. And that's really where the rubber meets the road. That's where the crux of the charges are, not for preserving records. And the
People that coming in late, this is a video that this guy, he's a good person here, good channel. Found out about Tina Peters' reverse sentencing. And then I was telling Carol that I found a new video out. Nick Shirley, everybody likes him, right? Well, we're going to have a long night. 2 hours ago, he just released a video, and he already has 10,000 views. It's a 3-hour one. So, you know what that means.
records actually showed real problems, but it was because she used somebody else's credentials. Am I correct on that? That's it.
That's right.
That's all we
She
need.
was not
And then I was going to do a
charged
closeout.
with
That's
any
different.
sort of crimes with backing up the election files or
What
having
happened?
those election records analyzed. The problem happened with using Gerald
Just kill
Wood's identity credentials
Come on.
for Conan Hayes. And Conan Hayes,
What are we
I
gonna
believe
eat
what
for lunch?
happened is
Was, get this, folks, fair and appropriate.
There we
And he
go.
went on to say, whatever
You got
happens
it.
with her sentence, Tina Peters will always be a convicted felon and violated her duty as Mesa County clerk, put others' lives at
I
risk.
know.
I think a lot of this came about because of this Democrat state senator, Sonia Yaquez Lewis. This lady convicted of 4 felonies, 1 count of attempt to influence a public servant, and 3 counts of forgery. So she forged letters of support to mislead the Colorado Senate Ethics Committee during an investigation into her alleged mistreatment of capital aids.
the sentencing that Lewis got for her felonies is standard in Colorado law. I just looked it up right before we got on air. And basically the types of felonies that Tina and this Lewis were convicted of, range from, it's like class 4, 5, and 6 felonies, and they all kind of range from a fine anywhere from $1,000 up to $100,000 and probation. And the most egregious versions of the felony is something like maybe a year in prison, but considering this was Tina's first offense and there was no damage, there's no financial damage, nobody was harmed, you know, she would have gotten the same thing under Colorado law, like the letter of the law. The judge gets to decide how he's going to sentence Tina. And he took into consideration all different types of extra information and to basically throw the book at her for the 9 years. And so that's how they got to the 9 years, because one of the things that jumped out at me from that sentencing is this judge said, look, you have to be in prison because you want to enrich yourself by going out and talking about, you know, this case, you're not sorry. And all of the things that you've said on social media and out in the press, you know, aggravate the charges in your case.
Yeah. So that applies right to the fact that the judge is basically, and these other judges agreed on the appeals, that he was basically utilizing her free speech against her.
That's
to
right.
Heighten the conviction.
You can't do that. Right. You know, judges have wide discretion, but I mean, he really brought in just a ton of crazy stuff into her sentencing hearing. And so that's how those charges just kept getting ratcheted up for Tina and not for this Lewis, apparently. So
your day-to-day covered with Base 44 Super Agent.
Coming up soon.
Your life is chaotic. Set up a personal assistant in a click.
Tina appealed her ruling and her sentencing, obviously, and that's what we're hearing now, the felonies, but the sentencing was way out of line, which I think is you know, a win for Tina. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's a big win.
These were the same felony charges. I mean, this is the same felony category that we're dealing with here. This is the same legal system. And you've got this one woman, a liberal insider, getting a slap on the wrist, while a Gold Star mom fighting for clean elections gets 9 years in prison. Tina Peters knew the trusted build on the Dominion machines would erase the proof she needed. And these election clerks have a duty to preserve the data. That is not a conspiracy. It's the law. So the problems in Mesa County were real. She revealed those. Mm-hmm. She may have gone about it imperfectly, but her motive was in just protecting the vote. And I think we had a conversation just before this, and you made the point, it wasn't even so much about election integrity at the start as simply doing her job. So on that, with the trusted build and the wiping of that, I mean, there's a lot of people who have, I don't know, they basically said, well, Dominion was coming in to do this trusted build that quickly after the election to wipe out those election records. That was the point of it. Yeah. Do you think that's the case, or was it simply a trusted build actually needed to be done, or were they using that as a shield to then not preserve election records because there was shenanigans?
Who's to say? Why not both? You know,
yeah.
Both could be true. We don't know.
You know, I think sometimes we're talking about machines and we're talking about the intricacies of these machines and preserving these records and everything. But I tend to think that we shouldn't have machines. And so I have a question for you. You've been working on the election integrity front for a while. What would true election integrity look like in Colorado moving forward? I mean, if clerks like Tina are basically punished for asking questions, what message does that send to every election official? It seemed like she was their trophy catch, and they wanted to run those charges up as high as they could.
Yeah, they definitely wanted to do that. It was a national and statewide signal to election officials, stay in your lane. You know, and it was also their one scalp to be able to thump you know, the Democratic or even just the establishment standpoint that, you know, our elections are fine. Don't look any further. Let's keep the computer-based system. In my opinion, we need to get back to decentralized elections, which is the opposite of what computer systems do. Computer systems centralize all of this information and control over elections. So what that would mean is go back to voting at the precinct level on election day, in person with ID, cast your ballot on paper, and have the ballots hand counted. People wonder, well, why are election integrity people thumping vote on the precinct level? The reason why is because precincts are divided up across the country, and it's about 2,000 people per precinct. That's all there is. That's why hand counting on the precinct level is so doable and can be done in a couple hours.
Let's just put that to rest completely. The precinct level that you're talking about is completely the way it needs to be done. If you look at the problems in Maricopa County in 2022 between Carrie Lake and Katie Hobbs, you saw the problems with centralized vote centers.
Mm-hmm.
And if you simply count, we used to know the winners of elections. It was expected that we would know them the night of the elections. Okay. So, I think all that you've mentioned here, Holly, on ways to shore up elections and do election integrity. I mean, hand counting at the precincts. Let's get rid of these machines. Let's manage the poll books at the local level. That way we're not getting 500,000 new voters dumped in 2 months before the election, like happened in Michigan, before 2020 and so on. But I mean, the disparity here isn't just shocking. I mean, it really is a warning. Tina Peters fought for really all of us and for fair elections as a Gold Star mom. And she served this nation through unimaginable loss, folks. She deserves the release, not a cage. Okay. Folks, Holly, I want to thank you for joining me today. And for those of you out there, make sure to share this video, get this information out there. It really is a big win for us. And also smash that like and go check out my sponsor, MyPillow, mypillow.com/lumberjack for big savings on the best sleep products available, folks. You can also get the energy drinks and the coffee. I love this Rev 7. I have it before my cycle class. And that way I can beat my class down just a little bit more. Anyways, thanks so much for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace out.
Together, we are.
Okay, that was a big one on Tina Peters. A lot of things are going on with Pam Bondi and the California fraud exposing and a bunch of other stuff. So we'll get into the next big clip. Nine minutes on this one.
Welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of course, here's the meme of the day, brought to you by 5mind.com. Well, this is certainly one for the history books, actually in two ways. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this is the first time this has ever happened. We all know birthright citizenship is now being argued at the Supreme Court. And during oral arguments, President Trump decided that he wanted to be there to get a front row seat to the arguments being made. And as you could imagine, this caused leftoids to have quite the conniption. And of course, the second point is the implication of this potential ruling coming down, this ridiculous standard, or frankly lack of standard, simply handing out American citizenship to all illegal aliens and CCP agents who simply want to cross over the border. This is simply a historic moment. It's the kind of change that could potentially set a new path for the country moving forward. And now trust me when I tell you, you're going to get clickbaited pretty soon here. There's going to be a lot of conservative YouTubers posting thumbnails and titles suggesting as if this thing is done, it's in the bag, birthright citizenship is about to get absolutely BTFO'd. Well, let me start off by saying it's not exactly that simple, and it's not looking necessarily that hot. Now, this one's going to be a tough one, but let me update you guys on exactly where we're at and what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so lucky us. Once again, we got a window directly in the oral arguments being made on the Supreme Court floor. Right now, this is looking like a pretty contested issue. And right now, it's looking like we have two conservative justice skeptics. We've got Justice Roberts and Coney Barrett. They don't necessarily seem so convinced as it stands right now, or certainly asking quite skeptical questions.
How would you adjudicate these cases? You're not going to know at the time of birth for some people whether they have the intent to stay or not, including U.S. citizens, by the way. I mean, what if you have someone who is living in Norway with, their husband and family, but is still a U.S. citizen, comes home and has her child here and goes back? How do we know whether the child is a U.S. citizen because the parent didn't have an intent to stay?
I'd say make 2 points, one practical, one legal. The practical point is under the terms of this executive order, you don't have to, because the executive order turns on objectively verifiable things, which is immigration status. Are you lawfully present but temporarily present, or do you have an illegal status? So those kind of taking evidence, so to speak, under subjective intent wouldn't be done. And as to the constitutional point, obviously domicile is baked into a lot of constitutional and legal concepts, and there may be situations where facts are determined. But if you look at the guidance that all the agencies did after this court in Costa said the agency could go forward to issue guidance, the guidance provides, I think, very, very clear, objective, verifiable approaches to doing this. And so as a practical matter, I don't think it's presented by this executive order.
You do agree that that has no impact on the legal analysis before us?
I think it's, I quote what Justice Scalia said in his Hamdan dissent, where their interpretation has these implications that could not possibly have been approved by the 19th century framers of this amendment. I think that shows that they've made a mess. Their interpretation has made a mess of the provision.
It certainly wasn't a problem in the 19th century.
No, but of course, we're in a new world now, as Justice Alito pointed out, where 8 billion people are one plane ride away from having a child who's a U.S. citizen.
Well, it's a new world. It's the same Constitution.
So now, of course, it's hard to read into these things, but obviously you could tell this is the expected line of skepticism. It was written on a piece of paper hundreds of years ago. Therefore, the most surface level interpretation is technically what is deemed constitutional. The actual intentions of the founding fathers, or whether or not it's good policy and good law, whether it makes sense or not in the modern age, is not relevant. That's not a constitutional argument. It would be argued that it's up to Congress whether or not a constitutional amendment is required. That, of course, was going to be the pushback. And so, like I mentioned the other day, this entire argument is going to all revolve around one thing: the interpretation of what jurisdiction means, jurisdiction thereof. Do illegal immigrants who have children on American soil fall under American jurisdiction, or do they fall under the jurisdiction of the country from which they were born or where they live? We'll have to see where these two SCOTUS justices land. But if you ask me, I'm sticking with the more modern interpretation of the 14th Amendment, that it was meant to grant citizenship to the slaves that were being freed and their children, and that illegal immigrants or people on visitor visas simply do not fall under American jurisdiction. And really, I'm hoping that these two skeptic justices fall on the right side of this issue. I think that's the proper framing here, because there is a right side and a wrong side when it comes to the issue of birthright citizenship. The current interpretation makes absolutely no frickin' sense whatsoever. The current loopholes that exist must be closed. I mean, we're talking about an existential issue for the country.
Birth tourism has been an issue for a long time, but it became even worse back in 2009 when President Obama created a categorical parole program that enabled Chinese nationals to visit the Northern Mariana Islands, a U.S. Commonwealth out in the Pacific, without vetting or a tourist visa. Then in 2014, President Obama entered a reciprocal visa agreement with China, allowing citizens of each country to travel between the two countries for up to 10 years on a single visa, opening the door even further to birth tourism. And in 2015, he changed the rules again, making birth a legally permissible use of a, quote, B visa. Now, the U.S. currently averages 33,000 tourism births annually. And in the Northern Mariana Islands alone, the total number of birth tourists is well over 1 million.
Imagine this totally plausible nightmare scenario, which is honestly probably already happening. A slow trickle of adversarial masses making their way into the country and spawning mass anchor babies. The left calls this immigration. I call this frickin' invasion. And it opens a window for the CCP to essentially start affecting American elections moving forward. It's the dumbest loophole on the planet. This loophole is existential for the future of the country, for the fabric of the country. It essentially incentivizes mass invasion, and it's costing taxpayers billions in schools and hospitals and welfare. Not to mention the secondary issue of chain migration on steroids that follows. Allegiance to one's country is a sacred bond, and it appears that every other developed country on Earth understands that a basic requirement of at least one parent or one legal citizen or legal resident should be required to grant the child citizenship, and anything else is very clearly destructive. And now the problem is tenfold, of course, as Democrats are engaging in the 1,001 illegal migrant scams. They're incentivizing these mass caravans, and in doing so, literally replacing native-born American citizens. That's the goal here, and it must be stopped. The American people have a right to their cultural and national inheritance. And the idea that you would simply open up this loophole, allow this loophole to continue in its current form for hordes and hordes of migrants to, again, invade the country and, in essence, steal that from American citizens, or at the very least compromise it, it's unacceptable. It makes no sense. And again, I understand the constitutional argument, the suggestion that whether or not the law makes sense in its current iteration is irrelevant as to whether or not it's constitutional and how it's written, but also whether or not something is constitutional depends on the interpretation of what was written. And in my view, the interpretation of the 14th Amendment is not as black and white as certain people suggest. And you have to account the intent of what was written, what they actually meant when they penned this particular constitutional right. I don't think the intent was to open the door for CCP spies and subversive agents to be able to flood the country and have anchor babies, or for illegal migrant caravans to do the same thing. It's not just that the law doesn't make sense, it's also that the interpretation, I don't think, is grounded in the actual intent of the statement, the sentence itself. If you have 2 Chinese citizens on visitor visas, they're subject to the jurisdiction of their home country. They swear no allegiance to America. I think that's pretty clear, and I hope these justices can get it right, because again, this is a do or die moment. This means everything. This is arguably one of the most important cases sitting in front of the Supreme Court in decades, and you just gotta hope that they get it right, because you know for a fact Congress never will. The entire Democrat strategy is dependent on illegal immigration, and so obviously they would never vote in favor of a constitutional amendment on this issue. In a lot of ways, this isn't about what's constitutional and what isn't, and saving the American people from complete replacement. This issue is existential for the country, and you just gotta believe that that factors in some way. It can't just be such a simple, surface-level interpretation that opens up this path towards utter destruction for the country. It's obviously more nuanced than that. Anyways, that's what I got. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Okay. Talking about the judges today, I think. That's that one channel on YouTube. I got a few short ones. You guys hear this one yet?
I stand by my allegations. I stand by my claims about the $100 million. It could potentially be higher than that.
Scott Stillman was a digital forensics supervisor for the Minnesota Department of Human Services from 2007 to 2017. In 2018, he sounded the alarm in front of the Minnesota Senate and the Minnesota House.
And believe me, Minnesota's government programs are being victimized by organized crime because of lack of controls.
Stillman was the first to blow the whistle on what he and his colleagues were uncovering as early as 2015. Fake daycares defrauding Medicaid for millions.
Every time I did a search warrant, every single time we went through the door during business hours, there were never children in there, ever. It was set up with tables and chairs and toys, but they appeared disused, dusted.
These daycares, is it fair to say that they were run by members of the Somali community here?
Every daycare I investigated was run by Somalis, owned by Somalis. This was fraud and other issues on a scale I had never, ever encountered before. And you see them billing Monday through Monday, holidays, weekends, sometimes 12, even 24-hour billings, and you see no children coming and going. And you're realizing, if you look at the logs and you're billing for 100 kids a day, and in one case, or in cases, they identified money going from their bank accounts to prominent politicians in Minnesota.
And then what? What happens?
We started seeing a lot of our cases, we would present them for prosecution, and we were presented with roadblocks. You don't have enough evidence. This isn't really a crime. Questions of, they thought, issues of race.
He wrote 2 emails to his superiors at DHS.
And I felt I had a responsibility, a moral responsibility. I also had a legal obligation. I wrote 2 emails, detailed emails to my supervisor, recording my concerns, giving him statistics, dates, times, dollar amounts, things of that nature.
If the general public knew the gravity of what we are seeing, it would have a negative impact on DHS, its leaders, and state government. we need to have an outside independent entity conduct an audit of DHS's handling of the hundreds of millions of dollars being misspent, despite repeated warnings to senior management that state money is being used to fund terrorism. Then, he says, the political machine destroyed him. They forced him to sign a plea agreement in an unrelated lawsuit stating he had made false statements, which Stillman says was used to damage his credibility.
The Attorney General's office, the Minnesota Attorney General's office, and Department of Human Services came to me and said, something has developed, and we are now going to require you to sign a plea agreement. We know you didn't do this, but we really don't care. If you don't sign it, we are going to destroy you.
Stillman left DHS and moved out of state. 8 years later, Stillman was proven right. In December 2025, U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson estimated the fraud at $9 billion.
What we see in Minnesota is not a handful of bad actors committing crimes. It's a staggering industrial scale fraud.
He exonerated me in the fact that everything I had said during my Senate and House hearings was not only accurate, 100% accurate, but is incredibly conservative. I think this is the biggest fraud in the United States history. It's a threat against our country, and most people are totally unaware that it's even happening.
Why is this still happening when you sounded the alarm over 10 years ago?
The politicians have not stopped it. And you can draw your own conclusions as to why they haven't stopped it, whether it's because they're complicit or they have ties to these entities or they have friends who are getting rich off of it. I don't know.
Kristen Robbins, the chair of the Minnesota House Oversight and Fraud Prevention Committee, says if the government had just listened to Stillman back in 2018, 2019, this fraud would not have ballooned and mushroomed into what it has today. Stillman himself is calling for a federal investigation into all of this.
That's the potential.
Okay, another big video. She just came out, you guys, just now.
The Silence of the Lambs. Do you remember the guy that did the whole tuck? You know, that it was his poodle and he's all dancing around with the Silence of the Lambs music?
Hey,
I delivered to that guy. I just delivered to that guy. I'm not making this up. I drove up and I saw him sitting on the porch. I could see the 5 o'clock shadow when I drove up, but I also could see the dangling earrings and the pink moo-moo. And he was sitting in a walker. Like, what is it with me lately with old people and walkers and disabled people? Anyway, he was sitting in a scooter walker thing, like that thing that little old man had. And he had these shoes on. All right,
I wasn't sure if we could have played that or not. Thanks, Jim. Seven minutes on this one.
For EPAC, it is April 2nd, the year of our Lord 2026. Right now, it's about 2:30 here in California, and this is breaking news. And I want folks to, if I may, give you some information that has come to light just in the last couple of months. Recently, it was actually in December, judges across the country noticed that a lot of Chinese nationals that were here on vacation, etc., were applying for, I guess what you might say, anchor babies. Well, it's a longer discussion. I only got a couple of minutes to talk about this. What is happening is wealthy Chinese nationals over in China are sending people over here on vacation that are pregnant with their child there's a number of ways you can get pregnant, in vitro fertilization, all kinds of stuff. They have the baby, then that baby born in the United States according to our system called anchor baby citizenship, that child is automatically a citizen. But they go back to China. I'm going to read you some stuff here right now. I'm a credentialed member of the press. This is why the Trump administration basically signed an executive order back last year, right after he was sworn into office. The executive order protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship. The system has been gamed on a major, enormous, I would say cataclysmic a scope and depth. But listen to me very carefully. As a credentialed member of the press, I had to ask this question. How is the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, gaming America's anchor baby system? I proposed this and AI came up with this. This is pretty much on target. Listen to me very carefully. Information suggesting a CCP gaming or anchor baby system refers to allegations of a coordinated birth tourism industry where wealthy Chinese nationals, and ladies and gentlemen, this is not just the Chinese. This is dozens and dozens of people from other countries coming to this country and having babies, where wealthy Chinese nationals pay for services to have children in the United States to secure American citizenship for that child. Stay with me. This is very important. Based on reports and allegations, here's how the alleged system operates. 1. Operation structure. Chinese nationals pay significant fees, $50,000 to $60,000, to intermediaries to facilitate the pregnancy and birth in the U.S. 2. Birth tourism companies. These operations use concierge services that handle the logistics, with many operating in Southern California, to secure automatic U.S. citizenship for that child. 3. Targeting and scale. Some reports allege that up to 100,000 Chinese babies are born in the U.S. every single year through these methods, with the child often returning to China to be raised under the influence of the Chinese Communist Party. 4th, long-term strategy allegations. Proponents of this view argue that the system aims to create a generation of dual citizen Chinese nationals who can vote in American elections at age 18, acting as a long-term strategic effort to influence American politics and secure elite status for families. This is part of Chinese unrestricted warfare on this country. It is glammed on to the Marxist political warfare in this country being waged by Marxists around this country, ultra liberals or Democrats, and members in Congress who are Marxists. If you go to preservingamericaepac.com, you can watch our documentaries, all 4 of them for free, on how Marxist political warfare is being waged in this country. And now the Marxists, and actually, the Chinese Communist Party, have literally been waging their own type of war outside the country and internally here in this country. They've glammed on to the Marxist political warfare campaign to virtually take this country down through what's called an asymmetric, unconventional type of warfare called, well, there is a term called ideological subversion. By subverting our values and the way our culture behaves and our society, subverting those values, that culture. But we see even more with the Marxists, literally now their hatred with Donald Trump. It's not unconventional anymore. It's turning conventional. But more importantly, I want folks to look into this. This is why Mr. John Sauer, S-A-U-R, is arguing his case before the Supreme Court this week, talking about how the system has been gamed. I want you, if you could, do a little homework on your own, okay? Go and listen to Mr. Sauer's opening arguments and listen to some of his argument about how the system has been gamed using the word domicile and various other terms. What happens is it goes back to years ago when the 14th Amendment was ratified and put into the Constitution. It talks about how the slaves who were here, who had an allegiance, and they worked in the country and they've been here for years, they wanted to give them citizenship. But now, many people from all over the world are sending their wives and daughters into this country to have babies, and then that child gets citizenship. That's how the system has been gamed. This is an asymmetric, unconventional warfare being waged mostly by the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, and it's got to stop. Hopefully, we see what happens with this, landmark decision by the Supreme Court. Let's see what happens. God bless everybody.
Okay, our news guy on TikTok. We got 2 out today. Well, we got a vote, you guys. It's a voting video coming up here in 15 minutes. So, how many wants to listen to Erica Kurt and the press secretary? Coming in on about 15 minutes. So, see how many wants to say yes for one. I'll play another video here. We'll get the shorts here. Oh, wait. We'll play this one. Too long. 15 right now. Let's play Auntie. 10 minutes.
On the veil, hand in hand with my Father, being shown every single beautiful truth of all of the heavenly realms. Just like Enoch, but unlike Enoch, I've had one thing at my disposal: my phone, my camera. And I've been able to collect video and photography proof of every single beautiful thing I've been shown. Excuse me for getting emotional on this one, but soon you'll understand if you don't already see. I made a video yesterday explaining that the true date of the crucifixion of our Messiah is today at 3. The day of preparation for Passover. And although, yes, John said that the next day after he had been crucified would be the Sabbath, that never meant it was Saturday, because people forgot and never took into account that Leviticus had explained that there are other Sabbaths throughout the year, 7 holy Sabbaths, 7 annual high day Sabbaths, and one just so happened to land on Passover, the year our Messiah was crucified. He was crucified on a Wednesday. He was crucified on April 1st. And now we can all clearly understand what April Fool's Day really means, the origin, and where it came from. I am a seer, and I have been shown all of the truths and the proofs for one very good reason. I have been given it to now give to you. Today, as I was getting into the bath, I was starting my prayer time. I had all 10 piggies in the water when I heard, stop, get out, go outside. I went out on my balcony upstairs and was overcome with emotion. And immediately I started to talk to Yeshua. Somebody throughout this year and a half, I have seen countless times, every single day, but not like this. Well, for me, but not like this for you. There are certain ways I can show people that only see with their temporal eye what I see in the spirit. I learned this very young as a medium, which I denounced being in 2022, but being frustrated, sometimes even scared, or just wanting people to see who I was talking to or seeing. Being a smoker and a smart person with a genius IQ, I thought to myself, well, those are mass matter and spirits are energy. You get chills for a reason. You might not see them, but they do. They take up space. If I blow my smoke on them, well, science would science, and it would outline their figure, and boom, voila, it has. I've done this since I was in my early 20s. Another way I can show people the spirit realm is through mirrors. Smoke and mirrors, Auntie? Well, that's weird. Doesn't this world teach us that smoke and mirrors is trickery, deception, and lies? Yeah, in fact, it does. And this has been one of the most vital tools and important messages that I would learn in my 20s that would help me right here, right now, figure it all out. We live in the upside down. What is good is bad, and bad is good. Well, except for the really bad stuff that, we saw in those files. But Those are the core bad things, and you know when you are core good. But things of the world have been flipped upside down to confuse us. Smoke and mirrors is not trickery, deception, and lies. It is a way, multiple ways for me to show you what I can see beyond the veil. And so are clouds. The elements, smoke, clouds, mirrors, and water. And then sometimes I don't need anything at all. I never know what you guys will be able to see compared to what I can see. I see the birds and their beaks are all yellow to me, where some people who can't see beyond their temporal eye, they don't see the yellow at all. But I'm pretty sure by now you're seeing what I was shown to show you. And if not, allow me to help you out, because this is one of by far the most beautiful and true captures using white clouds that my father has ever given to me to now give to you. Clouds are mentioned over 150 times in the Bible, aren't they? Turn over a rock, I will be there. Look at the trees. The spirit realm is all around you. But I've been blessed enough to be living now long beyond the veil. When I got on the balcony, I was overcome with emotion.
Hey.
Instantly, I called Yeshua, Yeshua. I said, what did they do to you on this day? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for the pain. I'm so sorry for everything you endured. And I just started saying, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I could feel pain that I could never comprehend the amount of pain he endured. Well, maybe just a little, but that's another story. But I could not comprehend what they did.
This is a big one here for her, for
very
Auntie.
day. I injured myself yesterday. I
1,600
hurt my
views on
neck and I
this one.
fell, so I'm not real big on looking up right now. But my father said, my child, look up. I even said, but Abba, it's going to hurt. He said, trust me. So I said, okay, Abba, let's do this. Hold my beer. I don't drink. That's just a joke. FYI, our Father and Yeshua have incredible senses of humor. I looked up and there was zero pain, and I saw my beautiful Messiah. And I saw what he was doing on this day. Confirming hands down, yes, in fact, April 1st. And side note, on his birthday, they persecuted, flogged, tortured, beat, humiliated, spit on, and crucified the most perfect lamb, the Son of our Father, the Son of Yah. Now, some of you will see this instantly, and you've probably been staring at it, not listening to a word that I've said. I don't blame you. But for those who cannot see it, breathe, relax your eyes, and ask your Father to open your eyes to see. Speaking of eyes, what a beautiful way to start. This is his eye. This is his other eye. His beautiful long bridge of a nose, which I've explained to you guys now multiple times, that we have in the highest heavenly realm. And you can even see the buckle around it, as I've explained. But Yeshua HaMashiach has the most beautiful long bridge of his nose, as do I, and as do other angels in the highest heavenly realm. Here's his beard. You can see the glistening of the gold. Here's his mustache. And his hair comes up. There's his beard, and it comes up. Here's his hair. Now, this is where I'm going to get emotional. Here's his cheekbone. And if you look closely, here's the crown of thorns. Here is your Messiah. Your perfect, beautiful, and so loving Messiah. Here's another angle of him. And you can see the crown of thorns a little bit easier. Here is a side angle of him. I was so excited to be able to get a picture where you can see the gold, the brown, the white tan of his face, and even the buckle on his nose. Everything is beautifully perfect. And oh, his beautiful eyes. Here he is a little up closer so you can see him. And I've also explained that on the buckles around us, there is always a name. You can see here, there is a name. And unless my eyes are playing tricks on me, my vision's been pretty blurry since I fell. Even my husband said, whoa, that looks like it says Colette. But for you, it actually might say something else. But wait, Auntie, how could that be? One thing I have learned in the heavenly realms is pictures, well, they change. Thousands of people witnessed it while I was on Jason Q's live explaining this, sharing a picture of the heavens, and right before everybody's eyes, it changed. This is one of the reasons it's been so hard to share things with you. And depending on what realm you are in, you may be seeing something completely other than me and other than other people in here. But this is your Messiah in one of the most beautiful forms in over a year and a half I've ever been able to present to you, to those who only see with their temporal eye. Confirmation that today he was crucified. And as I was standing on that balcony crying and telling him how much I loved him and how sorry I was he had to endure that, before I went in, words came out of my mouth and I said, why do I feel like I also need to tell you happy birthday? I wasn't even thinking it. Those words just came out of my mouth. I am the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. I am the first and I am the last. Today is the first day of the new year. It is not in January. Why would the new year start in winter? Don't we know our Father better by now? Everything is done by holidays. And a new year would begin in spring. And on April 1st, our Messiah was born on the holiday of preparation for Passover, because our Messiah was born the perfect lamb. And in preparation, he would be the ultimate sacrifice that day on the cross for our sins. I am the first, April 1st, his birthday, and I am the last, April 1st, his last day, the beginning and the end, all in one day. He was never crucified on a Friday and risen on a Sunday, long before the sun had even come up. He was 3 days, 3 nights down below preaching after he committed his soul to his Father, gathering as many souls from down there, preaching the good news and taking them up. 3 full days and 3 full nights. He died on the preparation for Passover day. Days begin at sundown and end on the next day of sundown. They don't start like they do in our world now, at midnight to midnight. He died on a Wednesday at 3, and when the sun went down, he had to be removed from the cross prior to that, because there could be nobody on the cross during the high day, one of the 7 annual Sabbath days, which happened to land on Passover as well. That began that night when the sun went down. And on Saturday, the true Sabbath, he rose at 3 o'clock. And this is why Matthew 28:1 explains, and late on the Sabbath, as it was just ending, Mary went to the tomb. That would be Saturday night, before the sun had even come up, and the tomb was empty. The tomb was empty because he had already risen. Saturday at 3. This year actually lines up with the exact dates and crucifixion of our Messiah. Today, right now, is the date he was crucified. When the sun goes down, it will begin Passover. And Saturday at 3, he will have risen. Today is the actual first day of the new year, because spring is the beginning of everything new. He was the first and the last and the Alpha Omega. And it is raining so hard right now. All grace and glory be to Yah. Confirmation from our beautiful Messiah. And out of tens of thousands, if not more pictures, this will now forever be my favorite that I have. Happy New Year and happy birthday. And I will never say April Fools in my life ever again. We have been lied to about everything.
That was a good one. Hang on, you guys. I gotta take a photo shot. We're gonna start off with Nick video. See how long we can go. See how many people like this Nick video. Hang on. Next. Okay, Final, I sent you thanks, Final. The photo. Hang on. Chico. There's about 3 of them, 3 or 4 out. Chico, leave him alone. So, Carol, that's a good one, right, to play? Stop whining.
Um,
Dang it.
yeah, and I mean, treasury bonds are thought of as extremely investment vehicles. So that's
Hey,
unlikely
here
to
we go, you
happen. So
guys.
what
Let
will
me know
probably
when to
happen is,
stop.
as a result of this huge number, and a lot of people think like the government money is kind of just magic money. Like it's just, it's free money because the government is able to print money. But the more money supply that the government puts into the system, the more money that the government prints to pay off its debts, the less rich the American people become. Your dollar becomes less worthy. And inflation will drastically increase over time if we do not fix this problem with the national debt.
And when we're talking about debt, how is it that we've already spent $14 million while we've been sitting? Where is that money going?
Well, there's a few different places. Some of the debt is discretionary, which means that...
Because when you look at this chart, we've been speaking for 2 minutes and 30 seconds so far. We're already at $16 million. What has that money gone to?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different things that the government spends money on. Part of it is discretionary. So
There's
these
3
are
of them there.
grants and contracts that the government will give out to third parties to fulfill its services. And then some of that spending is mandatory. It's Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, food benefits, those types of things. So it's a little bit of both, but I think there's a high amount to which this money is wasted. I think this is due to a number of reasons. First of all, I think that there's not enough identity checking in a lot of the benefits. It's a little too easy to get benefits, not in terms of the eligibility requirements, but just in terms of actually making sure that people are eligible. And then in the discretionary spending category, there is a lot of wasteful spending where we spend way too much money on, for example, I know tech pretty well. We spend way too much money on technological services as a government. So, the government is just really, overspends on everything. So it's a huge number.
Right.
$105,000 a second.
Yes, $105,000 a second. What percentage of our economy do you think is upheld by fraud? Say they eliminate all fraud. What percentage of our economy is gone?
I think it's a meaningful percentage, but it's less than we think. I think a lot of the money that's going towards fraud is not contributing to our domestic economy. It's going internationally. It's going back to Somalia, especially for some of the, Minnesota, Somalian fraud cases. So I think a lot of the money is actually, contributing negatively to us. And it's not adding to our GDP, and it's going to these other countries.
Really, that's a different response than I would have thought, because I think if they were to eliminate all fraud, for instance, like Medicare and Medicaid, I wonder how many of these little clinics you'd see everywhere, how many of these daycares you'd see for childcare, for instance, how many of these places that are receiving all this money would be gone, and how much of that would affect the economy.
I don't think it would, super deeply affect the economy.
You don't think it would?
I mean, the GDP is just a measure of how much money is being exchanged.
Like, do you think it's safe to say that 10% of our economy is from fraudulent money?
There's fraudulent money from the government, and then there's just fraud, period, where, private people are ripping off private companies or private people. I think there is a percentage of the economy which is held up by the government, but I don't think it's a meaningful percentage of GDP. I think it's probably less than you think. And the reason for that is the money is typically, it is true that, people will receive the fraudulent money and then they'll go out and buy cars. They'll buy Mercedes and BMWs. But a lot of the money is being, kind of stolen and siphoned out of the country. And I think that's a very meaningful percentage as well.
Once that money's gone, it's never coming back.
No,
once
not.
that money's in a
Yeah,
suitcase to Somalia, it's never coming back.
Yeah, we can't sue for that money back. No way. Yeah, the money's gone.
We're not going to go get it from that terrorist group over there.
Probably not, no.
I don't think we'll be able to get that. And right now we're in a pivotal point in the country because if you look at this graph, this has mainly gone up since 2020. We've had exponential increases in the debt. And it's affecting people like me and you and our generation the most. You're 20 years old, I'm 23. And between me and you at Doge and me exposing the fraud and what the work you guys did at Doge is it really put a highlight on the fraud that's taking place here inside the United States because everyone knew that fraud was happening, but nobody really knew how bad it was. And then when you look at these graphs like this, you understand that if we don't get this under control, whether it be fraudulent spending or just government spending in general, our generation really will not have the opportunity that all these other generations before us had. Because look, they didn't have that much of an increase in debt. That means their dollar was worth more. They're able to buy more stuff with their dollar. And if you look at these graphs since 2021, the debt has been going up each and every single year.
I guess a good way to look at this is we're basically borrowing against the value of our United States dollar. So you might not feel it right away, but over time, we've definitely felt, for example, the prices of homes increase. It's now much harder to get a home in America. And that's because we've been continuing to borrow against our dollar's value. And at some point, the quote unquote margin call will happen and we will have to print more money to start satisfying this debt and start servicing it better. The slope is pretty insane.
Are you guys
I like how
okay
recently
with this,
it's kind
or
of
do you want
topped
me to
off a little bit
stop?
more. But it's been a pretty insane thing to look at from the inside.
Yeah, and on the side, we have a few stats right here. Every newborn baby inherits $116,000 in debt. And if we were to try and pay off our debt at $1 million per day, it would take 106,000 years. And if you had just $1 bills, you could go to the moon and back 6 times if you were to go and put out every single dollar. The debt's insane. How'd you become Big Balls?
I didn't really mean to be named Big Balls. It was just something that I put on my LinkedIn. It wasn't like the username on LinkedIn, but it was what was in the URL path. So it was linkedin.com/Big Balls. So it was like kind of hidden. And I don't know, I just thought it was fun. I didn't really expect anyone to find it.
I imagine you weren't thinking everyone was just going to be calling you Big Balls everywhere you went.
No, not really. My dad used to call me Big Balls, and I've always looked up to my dad, and I guess I thought it'd be fun to put it there.
You do have a bit of an interesting history, and we're going to get more into the national debt, everything like that. But when you were just 15 years old, you got into technology. When did you learn about AI? How old were you?
Well, AI has been more of a recent development. I was in AI before ChatGPT launched, but AI is really cool. It's maybe since I was 16, 17.
You founded your first business called Tesla.sexy LLC.
There's a
what was that?
funny idea here. So back in the day, Elon tried to arrange the models so it was SEXY, but there was a copyright issue with the E. So they did the Model 3 with 3 lines instead, and they called it Model 3. And in some of the original models, it had those 3 lines, so it kind of looked like an E. So I was a big fan of Tesla at the time. I just thought it was such an epic mission. I started like the Tesla.sexy LLC thing just as a joke.
And what was it?
It was just a small thing that a few of my friends and I ran together. It was like some meme image website or something.
So this is all when you're in high school?
Yeah, so I had a few internships through high school. Then I started some more companies. I started a cybersecurity company. Learned a lot there because I had this really big goal in building what's called a.
Okay, guys. I'll see. Kay, can you put that in the chat? The link. Okay, yeah, Kay will put the link in Nick Shirley's video. Okay, this started at 7 o'clock, so we still got at least an hour. Stop whining. You had enough food today. Now stop. Stop. Okay. Hang it. Well, Nick got a couple. They're talking about Pam Bondi. Get up here. Stop. You're fine. Chico! Get up there. You're fine. Jeez. Oh. Stay by the window. He gets down from the window. He gets back up. Gets down. Okay, let's get back on track here. Let's play this one here. Oh, yeah, plenty of free.
Rate offers quality hand.
This is The Wire for 2300 Zulu, April 2nd, 2026. Precedence is routine. Information cutoff is 2200. Bottom line up front. Colonial Pipeline shut down briefly overnight after sustaining damage in Georgia. Strategic buildup continues in Middle East as United States begins targeting critical infrastructure within Iran. Beginning with international events in the Middle East, American targeting within Iran continues as Iranian forces continue to hit U.S. bases throughout the region. American bases in Kuwait have been hammered over the past few days, with ballistic missile strikes being reported at Camp Arifjan and Ali al-Salam Air Base. Within Iran this morning, the United States began more deliberate attacks on infrastructure which are not solely military targets. The B-1 bridge west of Tehran was destroyed, which was not yet opened. It was still under construction, but would have been the largest bridge in the country and the main link between Tehran and Karaj. Analysts comment. The Iranians are very likely to retaliate by hitting one or several critical bridges throughout the region on the south side of the Persian Gulf. The King Fahd bridge linking Bahrain with the mainland was already struck by the Iranians on the opening days of the war, when Saudi forces crossed the bridge to put down the Shia uprising and protests in Manama. So if they wanted to hit it again, they've already demonstrated that they have the ability to do so. In Iraq this morning, the U.S. State Department issued another travel alert, specifically warning that attacks may escalate over the next 24 to 48 hours. Analysts comment. This is probably in response to the kidnapping of American journalist Shelley Kittleson by Kataib Hezbollah 2 days ago, who remains missing in Baghdad, but also the deteriorating security situation nationwide, which is being compounded by various Iraqi militia groups beginning to mobilize against American forces in the region. More strategically, the situation in Iraq has deteriorated to its lowest point in years, and there is now a very real risk of some kind of insurgent uprising coming about due to the opposing militant groups which have been stirred up by the situation in Iran. This will be an important situation to monitor over the next few weeks. In India, following weeks of petroleum disruptions nationwide, the first oil tanker arrived in Vadanar overnight, completing India's resumption of purchasing crude oil from Iran, which was originally halted in 2019. Analysts comment. India had previously halted the purchase of Iranian oil due to American sanctions, but due to the war in the Middle East resulting in the U.S. waiving oil export sanctions, India has resumed the purchase of oil from Iran. Indian media reports that the transaction was carried out in Chinese yuan. On the home front, in Georgia, yesterday evening, Colonial Pipeline's Line 1 was shut down after sustaining damage during drilling operations. The pipeline was shut down for several hours while repairs were conducted, and as of this morning, Line 1 is fully functional. Analysts comment. While this incident was not the result of malign action and it was resolved quickly, this is still a big deal. This is the largest gasoline pipeline network in the United States and provides the vast majority of gasoline to the East Coast. Considering the recent volatility in the oil markets, this outage occurring right before a major holiday weekend for travel was exceptionally poor timing. In Washington, D.C., several leadership changes have taken place this afternoon. Attorney General Pam Bondi has been relieved of her duties, with her deputy Todd Blanche taking over her roles until a replacement is found. At the Pentagon, General Randy George was requested to take an early retirement effective immediately, stepping down from his role as Army Chief of Staff. Analyst comments for this wire. President Trump's address to the nation last night concluded without any major announcement of policy changes, and the speech was neither an announcement of the end of the war nor of any substantial increase of combat operations. Timeline-wise, President Trump stated that the conflict will last 2 to 3 more weeks, though no official exit plan was conveyed. More generally, speeches by political officials are not usually reflective of the tactical situation on the ground, and as it stands right now, the raw information available to the public continues to indicate another surge of military hardware and resources into the Middle East. Yesterday, CENTCOM published their list of assets deployed to support Operation Epic Fury, which included many resources which have recently arrived in theater, such as the EA-37 Bravo Compass Call platform, which is used for electronic warfare. This platform arrived on station yesterday, having been observed at Mildenhall Air Base on her way to the Middle East 2 days ago. Aircraft movements such as this one, and others, continue to indicate that operations are ramping up, not down. National-level reconnaissance and EW assets being moved into theater at this point, conducting their first combat deployment a full month after the war began, is not an indicator of the war coming to a close. This concludes the wire for 2300 Zulu, April 2nd, 2026.
Imagine being able to...
That's a good channel to listen to. The next one, Flamingo, I'm not sure about this lady, but she gets a lot of views. 5-minute videos. So she must be popular.
It's been about 10 minutes. Pamela Joe getting fired is not actually surprising. When I'm now remembering how I felt. Remember that video I shared with you guys? I'll find it. But the video where she says that Stephen Miller was the architect of all of this. I had a feeling that her days were numbered and that she was pointing the fingers on her way out.
I think the unsung hero in all of this is Stephen Miller. Stephen is the architect of making all of these plans work. Stephen, thank you. Thank you. I can't wait until Stephen.
When I made that video, I remember saying that this is a blame game here, and Donald Trump never sits there and allows other people to get credit for things, right? And let alone clap about it. And he was clapping there and he was smiling there. I think that they were having conversations. There were probably some meetings where some head had to roll, and the orange is blaming other people for the position that he's in. Someone's got to pay. It's not the consequences of his own actions. It's got to be someone else's fault. And I feel like that little forum was them fighting for their fucking lives. And she knew she was on the chopping block. And so she thought that she would publicly state that it's Stephen Miller, so that optically speaking, Trump letting him go could maybe cleanse him more. I feel like she was fighting for her position in the House, like it's fucking Big Brother or something. You know what I mean? Like, or traitors, like the traitors. This is what it is. She is throwing the other traitor under the bus on her way out, or at least campaigning to have the other traitor fucking kicked out instead of her. That's how I'm seeing that clip now. Of course, we're taking the attention off of Dear Leader. It definitely wasn't him, okay? He's been getting bad advice. But I think her biggest misstep was that she thought that she'd be safe. He doesn't respect women. Women and people of color are always going to be the first line of defense. They are the literal pawns he will happily sacrifice you to gain an ounce of credibility or like an ounce of like reputation washing for a second. If he needs like his approval ratings to get a little bump. Right? And then who did he have right behind you? Pam, you were a pawn. He had the one that he really liked and cared about. Todd Blanche, the guy who defended him in his criminal case. He had him right behind you so that when you had reached your maximum utility for him, he could sacrifice you. And then the one that he actually gave a shit about would step forward. That's what this was. All of these women were just the pawns. And then he's got the real people, the guys in the background, ready to take the positions over. And he's not going to let Stephen Miller go until the very end because he is the architect. This is stupid. And this does not, by the way, excuse her from that subpoena. But you know what this is, too. It's a threat. Her performance, when she gives testimony in front of Congress, her performance is going to dictate whether or not he has, let's say, Todd Blanche bring charges against her. They'll ruin her. She knows it. It's almost like she has even more at stake now that she's been let go. This almost secures, this is the first shot. This almost secures that she testifies correctly. This is some mafia shit. And again, to the rest of the sycophants, none of you are safe. None of you. It's frankly appalling that you think that there's anything that you could ever do to buy safety and security, the arms of like literal demons. I don't mean that like in a biblical sense. I just mean that in like the rhetorical sense. Maybe the biblical sense, I don't know. So yeah, at the end of my last video, I said, this isn't gonna be good for us. It's not good for us. I just had 10 minutes to think about it, and that's why it's not good for us. He just secured himself more protection because now she knows that she's on the outs and she will be desperate to please dear leader and not have like investigations opened on her. Because if she testifies incorrectly, you know that's what's going to happen. Todd Blanche is going to start to investigate her handling of the Epstein matter, and they're going to blame her for everything. They're going to blame her for the improper redactions and hiding documents, and maybe there will be documents that disappeared, and maybe they'll blame it on her. She's been sacrificed. And the only chance she has at not having her entire life ruined is to go down with that ship and protect the orange. It's bad. She was fired to create more fear in her, to make sure that she testifies correctly. And if she doesn't, it will all be blamed on her by way of prosecution. He has created a situation where there's so much hatred for her and so much mistrust of her that people will be happy to see her go down, and he knows it. She knows that he will do anything to please the people, to be popular, and people hate her enough to where they'll give him credit, applause, accolades for frying her. This is legitimately the only chess I've seen him play. And I'm sure, positive actually, that the architect is behind it. So I'm going to close it out with this. A question to Pam. Was it worth it? Was that little $20,000 donation that he gave you to your campaign worth it?
Wow.
You sold your whole soul and probably your bar license for what? A year and a half of being the attorney general? These people are so cheap in every fucking sense of the word. Anyway, okay, now that
I guess she is good. I got her newest one just came out with a 6-minute one, and I got I think a 9-minute one coming up. Or this might be the 9. Yeah, I think this is a 9. Okay, I didn't know that.
you don't talk to the police. And if this video doesn't convince you, Godspeed. About a year ago, I get a call from an old client's buddy saying, a detective has called me. He wants to talk to me about something. Do you think I should go? And I said, absolutely not. You give him my phone number, and I'll handle it. The guy tells me up and down, I have nothing to hide. I've not committed any crime. It's him and another guy. Okay. Both of them innocent. Both of them are not guilty of any crime. I'm telling you that. Take my word for it. You'll see everyone will end up agreeing with me, but both of them are innocent. And he said his friend got a call too from the detective, and they're both engaged in the same business. And I was like, tell your friend not to talk as well. I'm not his lawyer, but tell your friend not to talk. And my client was adamant. He's like, I haven't done anything wrong. Like, I can just talk. I was like, you are welcome to do whatever you want. But if you want to hire me, we're not cooperating. Okay? We're cooperating. We're going to go down to the station. But you're not saying a word. Long story short, we go down to the station. They tried everything to get my client to talk. And I kept saying, he's got nothing to say. He's got nothing to say.
You must
They
be a lawyer.
put us in another room so that we can talk, just the two of us. It was in their lunchroom so that there's no cameras and we can speak freely and blah, blah, blah. Because maybe your client wants to talk and he just can't talk in front of me. So let's do that. Then at the end, the cop tries to pull me into like his little cubicle. All right, I'm not supposed to show you this, but here's what I have. And if your client doesn't talk, I have an appointment to talk to the other guy tomorrow, and he's already told me everything. Okay? I'm just going to have him say it on the record tomorrow. And if he talks, then your client's fucked. And also, I already have enough to arrest him today if I wanted to. I'm just giving him an opportunity to flip on the other guy. And I was like, well, what's it to you? What's it to you which one of these guys gets flipped on? I like you, and I'm just trying to help out your client. I'm like, does this fucking guy think it's my first day? It's not my first day. So he's going through like what he thinks he has against my guy. And I was like, are we reading the same thing? I was like, this is not a crime. None of this amounts to a crime. It's a business, just so you know. It is a business that this officer clearly was not familiar with. He's not familiar with how the business works. And he thought that whatever it was illegal. And I'm like, this is a perfectly legal business. And he's like, well, we're just going to agree to disagree on that one. I was like, I don't think so. I think that you have to have a good faith basis before you arrest somebody. Like, you have a duty to make sure that it's a crime. I'm telling you, it's not a crime. And he's like, and I was like, tell me which crime it is. Tell me what crime it is. And he was like, oh, I'm not going to explain the world to you, ma'am. So he tells me that he's going to have no choice but to arrest my client on the spot. And I was like, do it. And then we'll bond out and we'll figure this out. But he's not saying anything to you. So pissed. He escorts us out eventually and crushes my hand as he shakes it goodbye and says, well, I'm going to be contacting your client or you pretty soon. It's not going to be as friendly as it was this time. I was like, are you telling me that you're going to arrest him later? Just do it now. I've got paperwork to do. Okay. All right. You have enough to arrest him right now. You don't need to wait to talk to the other guy, but you're just paperwork. So you're just going to do it like, okay. Long story short, the other guy went in. The other guy talked. The other guy got arrested. because all they needed was a verbalized like admission that yes, I am engaged in this activity. That's perfectly fucking legal. And whatever that guy said still wasn't enough to arrest my client, because they needed my client to say, yes, I'm engaged in this activity. That guy got arrested. And today his charges were finally dropped after a year. He was arrested in front of his family. He had to post a bond, a very high bond, because it was a first-degree felony he got charged with. He had to hire a lawyer and pay a trial fee. They ended up going to trial, but a retainer for a criminal defense attorney for the trial phase of a case is a lot higher than it is for pre-filing, for investigative stages. Okay, so he was out of mint for a first-degree felony. He was on pretrial release, so every time he wanted to go to Disney World with his kids, there had to be a motion to the court asking for permission. If he wanted to leave the Tri-County area, he had to get permission for a year for something. For there was no crime. They eventually had to drop the charges, but the thing is that he had to go through all of this, and even though the charges are dropped, it's still on his record. And when they drop a case because it's bullshit, they don't make a note that says, "Oh, this is bullshit," and they don't delete it. They should just be able to delete it. If they created it, they should be able to delete it. They don't even take it upon themselves to expunge it for you, making you burn your one and only expungement that you're allowed in your entire lifetime. Expungement takes about a year and requires motions to the court. So that guy, because he was like, I've got nothing to hide, I'm not committing a crime, and talked, that guy got arrested and his life was in turmoil for a year. And now he's going to have a mugshot for the rest of his life. And this case will come up, a first-degree felony, every time his background is run. And my client didn't fucking talk. And they never fucking arrested him. So if this doesn't convince you, I don't have anything else to say to you. Whatever, goodbye. You don't talk to...
Okay, I'll play her more. Found another TikTok lady there. Our next one's 3 new ones from our other TikTok lady. That was good. I don't understand what it sounded. It sounded good.
First up, Gavin Newsom continues to sabotage his own presidential hopes. This time, it's over cougars. And I'm not talking about the ones in Hollywood either. And just when you think it couldn't get worse, his wife is now helping him implode before the campaign even starts. In fact, she might actually be giving Kamala Harris a run for her money in the word salad Olympics. Oh, and don't call her first lady, by the way. Apparently that's offensive. Wait until you see this bizarre interview and hear why she thinks conservatives are the real problem. Then to wrap things up, I've got a story that made my week. Kathy Hochul is now begging conservatives to move back to New York after telling them to get the heck out of her state. I couldn't make this up if I tried. Like the video and hit subscribe if you're new here. I always love when you let me know down below that you're new so I can personally welcome you to all of this lovely chaos. All right, before we dive into Gaslight Gavin's train wreck of a story, I wanted to share with you a few moments that caught my attention. Did you happen to see the Prime Minister of Japan crushing hard on President Trump? Tell me I'm not the only one who noticed the way she was acting around 47 yesterday. It all started with the greeting outside the White House. Trump sticks out his hand for that classic formal world leader handshake. And she's like, oh no, we're hugging. And we're hugging right now. She is fangirling so hard. Like she just skipped the handshake line and went straight to the VIP meet and greet. I guess nobody told her she's supposed to be afraid of the orange man. Mita spent 10 years saying he's terrifying, dangerous, unpredictable. And she shows up and she's like, hey, he seems fun. Well, then the two, they took a nice little stroll down the Presidential Hall of Fame, and the Prime Minister got a really good chuckle looking at Joe Biden's auto pen photo. What do you know? She's got a sense of humor. The only thing missing from that picture is a made in China sticker and a charging cable. I'm going to send you into the weekend in a good mood. Several laughs coming your way on today's show.
We'll be praying for you, Carol.
weird. Hillary Clinton drops a claim so bizarre it makes you do a double take, then proceeds to go full fire-breathing dragon on the members asking her questions. And just when you think it can't get any crazier, Bill Clinton shocks everyone when a Democrat asks if President Trump should be questioned about Epstein. I mean, did anyone see that coming? Even better, President Trump weighed in today as he was heading out to Marine One, and his response isn't exactly what I expected. Hit like, share with your friends and family who want the facts with a side of entertainment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's the moment we've all been breathlessly waiting for. Bill Clinton is tucked away in a deposition, chatting about his totally innocent friendship with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. At this moment, there's absolutely no reason to believe that Bill would be anything but completely 100% honest. Ah, yes. How could I forget about that? That tiny little blip in the radar of history. Maybe now that I think about it, Bill's testimony should go about as smoothly as a cat taking a bath. Here's part of his opening statement today, and I'm not kidding. This is the vibe. It reads in part, quote, "Let me say what you're going to hear from me. First, I had no idea of the crimes Epstein was committing. No matter how many photos you show me, I have two things that at the end of the day matter more than your interpretation of those 20-year-old photos. I know what I saw, and more importantly, what I didn't see. I know what I did, and more importantly, what I didn't do. I saw nothing and did nothing wrong." Apparently 27 flights is just frequent flyer miles. Endless photos, just scrapbooking. Island vibes, he's probably there for the sunsets. And after all that, we're supposed to believe he saw nothing suspicious? Nothing. I'm sorry, but my grandma would have started connecting the dots after flight number 3, and she once tried to rewind a DVD. Bill and Hill are in the hot seats over the...
Okay, one more with her. We'll play Benny next.
To a black audience over the weekend and spectacularly failed, leaving critics calling him racist. Newsom isn't alone on this humiliation tour. Bernie Sanders and Zohran Mamdani, they hopped on board, and the SAVE Act just shredded their credibility one embarrassing excuse at a time. And breaking fresh intel on the 21-year-old who breached Mar-a-Lago armed with a shotgun and gas can. The motives are starting to come into focus. Like the video, share it with your friends and family, and hit subscribe if you're new here. You don't want to miss the latest political chaos. Well, Gavin Newsom set the internet on fire after thinking it was a brilliant idea to tell a black mayor and a black audience he's just like them because he got a 960 on his SAT and can't read a speech. That is the connection between him and blacks. Low test scores. Oh, wow. So that's the outreach strategy. Hey, guys, I'm just like you. I didn't test well either. I mean, nothing says I respect you like assuming the common bond in the room is low SAT scores. That's not relatable. That is spectacularly tone deaf. And hold on. If you can't read a speech, Governor, then explain the social media post where you bragged about reading so-called banned books to, quote, figure out what these states are afraid of. So which is it? You can't read or you're doing literary field research? Pick a lane because you don't get to be illiterate for applause lines and well-read for Instagram. And let's just say this, branding yourself as can't read a speech when you clearly have presidential ambitions, that is a bold strategy that sounds like a campaign ad written by your opponents. And let's be honest, does this look like a man who grew up without opportunity? No, this is prep school energy. This is hair product in the yearbook energy, silver spoon, polished loafers, the whole vibe. So the internet responded accordingly. Nicki Minaj blasted the governor on X by writing in part, quote, his way of bonding with black people is to tell them how stupid he is and that he can't read. This means my first read on him was correct. He's been handed so many things and put in high positions he never earned or deserved. Greasy Gavin Newsom.
Okay, those were today, so those were new ones. Well, okay, guess who just came out with another one? We got Captain Kyle, 21 minutes. So we got Benny to play, 15, and we got Captain.
Everything looks like it is turning to shit. And because it has to.
You guys hear it? Miles,
This is a part of the process that we have to go through so that everything can be collapsed. But the thing is that the reason it looks the way that it does is that you've got two factions. You've got the white hats and you have the black hats, the deep state, those that are trying to bring about all of their agenda for the one world government. And to accomplish that, everything has to collapse anyway. And so what we're doing is basically allowing the deep state to create those things in which they must, because they have to, so that that collapse can take place. They believe that it's going to bring forth your dependence on them, and they're going to be able to implement the one world government and more power and control over you. And this is a part of the reason that the oil shortage is, this is all manufactured, and it is becoming a situation to where these countries that don't have fuel, don't have oil, are going to start implementing protocols more like what's going on in Cuba, that has none at all, zero, so that they can basically put you more and more dependent on them. You need them to get out of the mess that they created. They're creating. The white hats are backstopping it. And it doesn't appear that way. It's supposed to. Just like when Q said, when the lights go out, we're in control. Because they are. And God is in control of all of this. And its whole intent is to create fear and panic and division within everybody. And you need to be basically that lighthouse in peace, knowing that it's going to be all right and that there is nothing to fear, and that you don't comply with any of that in which they're trying to put forth. And as a collective, we're going to see how it unfolds as it does, because it's actually the way that they've done. The white hats have used the black hats over and over and over again to create some kind of problem, create some kind of illusion of false flag, and then turn it around for their benefit, even without you seeing it or understanding how it's actually playing out on purpose. But this time, it's not being done in the background. It's going to be center stage. And everyone is going to see, everyone is going to know that this was all a part of their plan to bring forth the destruction of our country, our sovereignty, and our freedoms. 110%. And it appears right now, it's like, look at how much Donald Trump is being either betrayed or just undermined in every facet across the board, between the mainstream media, the GOP, even basically caving to this whole bull crap in the House and Senate of funding DHS and not funding ICE and taking out the freaking border protection stuff, as well as basically getting rid of voter ID. And it's like, they're basically how I would equate that is that they're self-destructing, just as like the same thing that the Democrats have been doing. It almost is too scripted how all of this is happening simultaneously, even knowing that nobody wants any of this, Democrats or Republicans, and it's all being put together. It's like they're just trying to basically subvert the will of the people, but they're doing it in your face, not like they have done in the past where they do it secretly and where you don't really know what's going on. And so this is the play. We're in the final stages, and it's going to get ugly. And I suggest that you have some supplies and be able to at least manage for a few weeks or a month to be able to try to minimize the difficulties that may be coming across your table, because it's going to affect everybody, just like these gas prices and fuel prices are affecting everybody, more others than some. And that's the same with the way that it's going to be basically for even the power. Some people may not have power, some people may, but it's going to get ugly, people. And they're going to do everything that they can to try their best to regain control and power over you. That's the play. And they're going to make it as ugly and as difficult as they possibly can. They're going to throw the freaking kitchen sink at us. And it's going to be one thing after another after another. And this is all intentional because they don't have the pandemic kind of crap again, because they tried that when they tried to bring forth monkeypox and crap like that. And people were like, oh, hell no, we ain't going for that. Well, they're making this look like it's a organic type situation, but it's being created by them. Just like I said, that the whole Strait of Hormuz, basically it's open, but the ships, because Lords of London, basically they jacked up the insurance, they manipulated it, and by doing that, they shut it down because they didn't want to insure and take the risk. And because of that, that also causes all those ships to park. There's been, instead of like 120 of them going through a day, there's been like 6 or 8 that are going through. And this is verified. They are actually going through. But the majority of them are staying parked, staying anchored, because their companies will not take the risk, because it's not worth it paying that kind of money to be insured for that protection. And when you start to step back and look at things of how it does not make sense, because in all reality, the technology that we have, we can actually completely wipe them out. Trump talks about the things that we can do, but they're doing it mostly conventionally instead of using technology that could have made this over in no time, because it has to seem as organic and natural as possible. And I talked about this for months, that we can actually take them all down, but they're not. They're going to blow things up. They're going to make this into something that's a little drug out. And it's all intentional in that aspect, because the deep state have to feel like that they're winning, and they're the ones that are implementing the control, and that they're the ones shutting it down. They're the ones that are making it the way that it is. But they're trying to push that blame over on Trump and the United States and so on and so forth. And in all reality, they, meaning the deep state and the black hats, are completely in control of this manipulation. And it's going to be their downfall. It's going to be the downfall of the mainstream media and all the proxies that are a part of it. And I'm talking about the social influencers and everyone else that are not on board with understanding that this plan has been being implemented forever. And it's not like it just popped up and this is all of a sudden just happening. So we have to be able to recognize that the change comes from us, and it doesn't come from us standing outside and protesting and no, it comes with us standing in our sovereignty and saying, I don't receive that, I don't comply, and I'm not going to go in support of whatever kind of BS that you guys are giving us, and look at things not for where they show it to you and then all of a sudden expecting the worst out of it, but look at something and go, okay, what could be the very best thing that happens because of this? Like where the word tells us that all things that the enemy uses for evil, God turns into good and to be a blessing. And if we start to focus ourselves that way, then it changes our perspective on absolutely everything. And it's like, even with this, with Artemis and the spaceship and the rocket and all that, yeah, we have technology that is basically, we could get to the moon because they do have transports that can go back and forth to the moon. They're little small Tic Tacs, and they take 6 minutes. 6 freaking minutes. And we have the TR-3B, we have the large Tic Tacs, we have all kinds of actual ships that are not only space but interdimensional and can move in ways that is just like science fiction, because that's how they've been presenting to us. And in that, we comply to understanding that we have that technology, but it's only science fiction.
We'll go to 8:30,
it's
you
not.
guys.
Never was. The ideas of all of that came from what we were actually doing and where we were going. And it's like, so this whole thing with Artemis, it has nothing to do with you being awake. It has to do with bringing the excitement to the normies of space travel and space and going to the moon and having a rallying point for people to get excited about future. And in doing so, this is where the technology is going to come in. Just as we said many times before, that technology is going to, all of a sudden, we discovered, and this discovery leads to that discovery, and we don't even need to use rockets anymore. And we can do this and we can do that. We have a freaking base on the moon that has been there forever. We have actual bases on Mars. And Elon Musk fully knows about it, but he does not talk of it in that manner. He continues to go down this pathway of development and making that process, even though it's antiquated, the very best that it can possibly be, and get people excited about it. Because our future is in the stars, amongst the galaxies, and we are going to become galactic, just as we're supposed to be. So don't throw piss in other people's excitement about us moving forward and trying to basically black pill people. Don't do it, because everybody is at a different place upon this journey. And just because I know certain things doesn't mean that I'm going to sit there and down people that are just getting excited about something that is a brand new car or a brand new type of truck. Let people have their freaking joy and let people get excited, because this is about all of us, not some of us. It's about all of us getting across the finish line, and it's coming. So remember, be kind to people. Show them the best side of yourself, because that's what it's about. We're all human. We all have the same blood. And God wants us to love each and every one of us, to love our neighbor as ourselves. And that doesn't mean the neighbor that you have things in common with or you get along with because y'all are more the same. No, he says it means to love the one that you have nothing in common with and seems to be the polar opposite, because that's what true love is. It's just another expression of yourself, because we are the collective of God. He is experiencing all things through all of us simultaneously and loves us all. He is inside of all of us. So everything is happening for a reason. It's coming very quickly. And don't let fear and anger and hostility be pushed into your corner and you react to it. Stay in peace, stay in love. Show everyone the best side of yourself, because so much is happening, and it will happen faster if you get on board in peace and love and harmony, and allow that to begin to manifest through those things in which you vision. Put your energy into the positive and not the negative. Everything is going to be put out there is meant to challenge you, and it's meant to break you down. Don't allow it, because you have control on how you choose to be every single day. You get up, you choose how you're going to act and how you're going to respond, how you're going to feel. It's a choice. Just like love. Love is a choice. And I choose love. I choose you. That's why we're here. We have no other purpose of being here. I have no other purpose in making this video today but you. You're going to see just how beautiful things can be when all of the division, the separation, and hate, and all of that ugliness gets removed. God is in control, and there is absolutely no doubt about that. And God is not going to allow the enemy to win. It thinks it's going to, but it is over for the enemy. Over. It's the end of them. They actually do know it, and that's why they are fighting so hard to try to change the narrative and get back in the control that they have lost. And so they're on their last acts of defiance right now. Stand strong. Stand in peace. Stand in love. And don't react to the nonsense that's out there, because that's what it's for. It's for the normal person that's still trying to wake up, to let them wake up. Because so many people are waking up right now, they don't understand what's going on, but they're like, this don't make sense. And the more that it doesn't make sense, the more they're beginning to wake up. God is at work here. Let God be God and love each other. Help each other. Show people your best side. I love you guys. Captain Call out.
Okay, we got two of them today. We don't normally get two Captain Kyles, don't we? Okay. The next one is our state, Michigan. My state, Michigan. Whitmer's fraud stuff. 11 minutes.
Support people who fall on hard times, obviously, because they're human beings.
Yeah.
Have we set up our systems in a way, let's say the state of Michigan, where we're also just discouraging people from going out there and being contributors?
Yeah. Well, that is an obscene and I think rare example of where the system is not perfect, right?
I brought up the website where you can apply for benefits. I started applying for those benefits using Governor Whitmer's address, so a real address with a fake name. I was able to bypass the Social Security alien number and never getting denied benefits, at the very end getting registered to vote. So my question is, why would we not mandate Social Security numbers or alien numbers on a website?
This is insane. A sitting state lawmaker, not some random dude on the internet, a lawmaker that used the governor's own address with a completely fake name, no Social Security number, no alien number, didn't get denied. And at the very end, the system asked him if he wanted to register to vote. You cannot make this up.
I brought up the website where you can apply for benefits. I started applying for those benefits using Governor Whitmer's address, so a real address with a fake name. I was able to bypass the Social Security alien number and never getting denied benefits, at the very end getting registered to vote. So my question is, why would we not mandate Social Security numbers or alien numbers on a website?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. You already know we're trying to figure this whole situation out here. We see what's going on in Michigan. Michigan has some fraud issues. It's handing out receipts like it's some kind of Costco return line, doing a lot of shady things. And this was State Representative Jason Wolford. He chairs the House Oversight Subcommittee. And he did that demonstration live during the meeting to show everybody how wide open Michigan's benefits system actually is. There's no tricks, no hacking. You can just walk through the front door.
So a real address with a fake name. I was able to bypass the Social Security alien number and never getting denied benefits, at the very end getting registered to vote. So my question is, why would we not mandate Social Security numbers or alien numbers on a website? We'll talk about this more, but why would we spend $16 million on an upgrade to a website and not allow for someone or mandate someone to log in to use a Social Security number or an alien number when we're handing out $3 billion? So, and the other question I would have is, why has this not been fixed? We brought this up to the Department of Health and Human Services, and you can still go on the website today and do exactly what we did before.
Now, we all know why this is a problem, but we need to talk about it because Governor Gretchen Whitmer already addressed this on camera on a YouTube channel that has 1 million subscribers. And what did she say? We're going to play right now.
I've had so many people on the show where they are specifically choosing to not go work more hours because then they'll be taken off benefits. And I'm wondering, even though I want to support people who fall on hard times, obviously, because they're human beings, have we set up our systems in a way, let's say the state of Michigan, where we're also just discouraging people from going out there and being contributors?
Yeah. Well, that is an obscene and I think rare example of where the system is not perfect, right?
Yeah.
That we want to incentivize work. We want people to be gainfully employed and not reliant on state funding. I understand that you've had people suggest that you could move to Michigan and get some benefits that you can't get elsewhere.
She said rare. She sat across Caleb Hammer. Shout out to his channel. He's big in the financial space. We had a rare opportunity to talk to the governor of his home state. And she said that with her whole chest. She said it's rare. It's not true. You can't just come to Michigan and get benefits that you were not able to get anywhere else. It's not possible. But your own lawmaker just showed on your own state's website that you can type in a fake name, skip the verification, and the system says, welcome aboard. That isn't rare. That seems to be the default setting. But real quick, if this is your first time, this is what we do on this channel. We go into the shadiness and the nonsense from a lot of these politicians. So if you're not subscribed, now here's the time. Because 83% of you are watching this are not subscribed. Hit that button. It's free. And you're going to want to see what comes next because the numbers here are absolutely ugly. So the Michigan House Oversight Subcommittee just dropped a report and it reads like an indictment. Michigan runs its benefit applications through a portal called MI Bridges. Food stamps, Medicaid, cash assistance, childcare, everything flows through this one system. And this system costs taxpayers $16.8 million to develop. $16.8 million. And you want to know what they require to submit an application? A first name, a last name, an address, and a phone number. That's the whole list. If you check the box that says that you're a non-citizen, it will ask you for an alien number, but you can skip it. There is no flag, no denial, nothing. It looks like the whole system runs on that honor system. You tell them who you are and they'll just believe you. Verification doesn't happen until you're already in the system, sometimes 30 days later. So let me get this straight. You spend $16.8 million on a portal that just takes your word for it. You built a $16.8 million honor system for $3.2 billion in benefits. You cannot make this up.
That over $3.23 billion in SNAP benefits were paid out. Programs of this size are vital. They're vital safety nets.
I smoked and I have COPD. My children are really worried. My tip is send your kids a text. It may be the last time that you do.
Nobody gives you a gold medal for finishing your taxes, but Tax Act does give you
to families across the state, but this scale makes them particularly vulnerable, and these are not in place. For that reason, maintaining strong oversight and accountability is essential to protect taxpayers from footing the bill of this inefficiency. Can you imagine all the things that you need to log into to be able to utilize a system? Xbox, Nintendo, your Social Security benefits, but you don't need a Social Security number or an alien number or a login to go on a website to receive benefits.
And that's the number that really matters. $3.2 billion. That's what Michigan spent on SNAP in the fiscal year of 2024. 1 out of 7 people in the state is on food assistance. In the SNAP payment error rate, where there's overpayments, underpayments, people getting the wrong amount, it hit 9.53%. The federal threshold before you start catching penalties, 6%. Michigan is almost double that. And under this governor's watch, the yearly average has been above 10%. So this isn't just a blip or outlier. This is the pattern that's going on over there. Now, here's where things really hit. Under the new federal rules, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, states that can't get their error rates under control are going to start paying for it. If Michigan's rates stay where it is, the state is looking at $320 million penalty starting in 2027. That is a lot of money. That $320 million is not going to go to schools. It's not going to go to any kind of infrastructure. It's not going to families that actually need help. Just a penalty check because the state cannot run its own system. Wolford said it straight. We're coming up on a very expensive reckoning and it's going to cost taxpayers. And he's absolutely right. The timeline doesn't timeline when you're spending billions of dollars through a system with no front door security and then start acting surprised when the error rate goes through the roof. And this gets even worse. Michigan Capital Confidential, shout out to them. They've been on this story from the very beginning, reported that SNAP fraud jumped over 400% in 1 year, from $181,000 in the fiscal year 2023 to nearly $885,000 in 2024. The state was pumping out 738 replacement bridge cards every single day. You know how much cards that's in the year? 269,000 cards replaced in 1 year. Why? Because Michigan's bridge cards are still running on magnetic strip technology, magnetic strips. In 2026, your debit card got a chip probably 10 years ago. Your credit card has a chip, but the card that low-income families depend on feeding their kids, still running on technology that a criminal can clone with a $50 skimmer right off the internet. And here's the kicker. A USDA email obtained through records requests showed that a Russian-based criminal group was targeting Michigan's system. The feds knew that Michigan was a target, and the state was still out there swiping magnetic strip cards. Now, I gotta zoom out because this is a bigger problem than just SNAP. The Detroit Regional Chamber just put out their 2026 State of the Region report, and the picture that it paints is not good. Michigan's per capita income dropped from 18th in the nation back in 2000 to 40th in 2024, the lowest in state history. No state in the country has fallen further or faster than Michigan. 4th grade reading levels? In year 2000, it was at the top 20. Now it's at 44th. Population growth, second to last, only beating West Virginia. And here's the part that should really bother you. When you poll Michigan residents and ask them where the state ranks, they say 25th, 26th. They think they're average. They have no idea that they're actually near the bottom. The people running the state haven't told them. And while all this is happening, the fraud, the error rates, the economic slide, what does the governor put her energy into? A $261 million speculative mega site in Genesee County, codenamed Project Grit. They brought up 155 homes, demolished close to half, had everyone sign NDAs, over 100 of them, to keep residents and lawmakers in the dark, all to attract a semiconductor factory. The factory never came. The company walked. No jobs, no factory, just a torn up community and $261 million of taxpayer money on a gamble that busted. So let's run the tab on Governor Whitmer. $16.8 million portal with no identity verification, a 9.53 error rate on a $3.2 billion in benefits, a potential $320 million federal penalty, fraud up 400%, bridge cards still on magnetic strips in 2016, $261 million mega site with no factory, per capita income at the lowest rate in state history. And the governor went on a show on YouTube and said that fraud is rare. Unfortunately for her, the receipts don't lie. The governor's not running the state very well. And I have to say this because this is not about pulling benefits from people who need them. That's not what this is. The people who actually depend on SNAP to feed their families are the ones who are getting hurt the most when the system is just this broken. When the fraud runs wild, trust evaporates, politicians start cutting programs, and people at the bottom will get squeezed. Accountability protects the safety net. That's the whole point. But we will continue to follow the story. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Thank you for taking time to watch this video.
All right. Finally got some Michigan fraud coming out. We haven't had Michigan news out in a while on the fraud. So I got a 4-minute one, and then I'm going to finish the last 2 videos with Benny. Four minutes.
Children from Ecuador narco hellhole. Published by Real Raw News. Once again, United States Special Operations Forces have rescued missing United States children from South American drug lords who also dabble in child trafficking. Late Tuesday night, elite Green Berets from the U.S. Army's legendary 5th Special Forces Group stormed a remote, heavily fortified cartel compound in southern Ecuador and rescued a dozen American children who had been held captive for months, subjected to unimaginable deprivation. The daring raid, personally greenlit by patriotic President Donald J. Trump after a secure video conference with Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa, underpinned Trump's pledge to leave no child behind. According to credible sources within the military with direct knowledge of the operation, 3 MH-6 Little Bird helicopters inserted the Special Forces team deep into the jungle near the Colombian border, approximately 40 miles from the town of Guayaquil, on Tuesday night. Their target was a sprawling compound controlled by the Los Choneros cartel, which specializes in drug smuggling, extortion, and human trafficking, satellite and drone surveillance. Human intelligence, and Noaboa's cooperation, all pointed to our kids, who shouldn't be for sale. President Trump doesn't fuck around. He told Noboa that without his permission, we were bringing out our children home and would torch the place and kill the narco-terrorists, said a senior official directly involved in the operation. Unwilling to face the wrath of Trump and the hellstorm he could unleash upon Ecuador, Noboa capitulated while claiming he had no knowledge whatsoever of American children held prisoner in his country. He had even offered to deploy Ecuador's Patria special forces to investigate the compound, but Trump, our source said, rebuffed the offer and told Noboa, "We don't need one bit of your help to rescue our children from those vicious drug cartels in your country. Thanks to me, we have the greatest military in the world, and they'll take care of it." At 2 a.m., the special forces reached the compound and silently killed a dozen narco sentries patrolling the fenced-in perimeter and in the guard tower overlooking the sweltering jungle. They vanquished 6 more sentries guarding a hut in which the children were held. 7 boys and 5 girls, aged 7 to 14, were found huddled in a horrific hut, our source said, adding that the dozen were severely dehydrated and showed signs of maturation. Several had untreated infections from insect bites and minor wounds. An emaciated 11-year-old girl told soldiers she had not had solid food in over 10 days. "These kids went through hell," our source said. "We got the kids out with no friendly casualties. Special forces cleared the compound room by room. The cartel thugs opened fire first. We ended it fast. No American casualties. The kids were our priority. We got them in under 9 minutes from boots on the ground to exfil. After making sure our children were safe, they set explosives and detonated them from a safe distance." President Trump was crystal clear, our source went on. He said, "These are American kids. We don't leave Americans behind, ever. Not on my watch." He emphasized that this was not just a military operation but a matter of national honor. He greenlit it on the spot after confirming every detail with Noboa. "That's leadership. That's America first in action. We have no corporate advertisers, nor billionaire philanthropists looking to support efforts to expose the deep state's evil agenda. Every donation, irrespective of the amount, is appreciated and helps ensure our survival in these perilous times."
Okay, I thought that was a very important one there. Okay, 2 more Benny Johnson videos. The first one is 9 minutes.
Built to last. Backed.
It's what you want.
Life comes at you fast. If you're Whoopi Goldberg, it's not coming at all because, well, you're Whoopi Goldberg and you can't even get Jeffrey Epstein to take you on a date. Whoopi Goldberg had to humiliatingly admit to the vanishing audience at The View that she's in the Epstein files because she got down on her knees in front of Jeffrey Epstein and begged, pretty pleased, for his Gulfstream 2 in order to go to France. She wanted to go on a romantic trip with Jeffrey Epstein. She says so. She says that she wants Jeffrey Epstein to travel with her.
Transparency.
Here she is explaining that.
My name is in the files.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh,
and what does it say? It says, Whoopi needs a plane to get to Monaco. John Lennon's charity. It should say, G don't want to charter, so they're looking for private owners. Here's the info. And they give all the information. And they're saying, do you want to offer your G2?
And it looks like they said no thanks.
The unexpected hysteria of that comment, this unexpectedly hilarious. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sonny Hussein. because Jeffrey Epstein did say no thanks to traveling across the Atlantic with Whoopi Goldberg. Imagine how nasty Whoopi Goldberg has to be for Jeffrey Epstein to be like, yeah, no, I don't want any of this. Oh yeah, we do know how nasty she is. Remember that time when she farted and burped
He cared
at the same
enough
time
about his wife to pay that was
there was
gas.
the fart, there was the burp. Yeah. She did that on live TV. Imagine what she'd do in a locked cabin with you across the Atlantic. And Jeffrey Epstein is no dummy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Whoopi Goldberg having a bad couple of weeks, obviously, wanting to change the subject. Not doing a great job, though, obviously. She's trying to explain away. She's saying anybody can be on the Jeffrey Epstein list. Just anybody. It was just me begging for Jeffrey Epstein's Gulfstream 2. I just wanted to travel the world with him. Whoopi and Epstein. Ugh. Anyway. She's not beating the rap anymore because now she's talking about Donald Trump's penis. I don't know, man. This is what she says. She talks about Donald Trump's presidential library and that it looks like a giant penis. Okay. Let's go ahead and listen.
What's going on? I mean, the fact that, did you see the rendition of the of the library that he's building?
Yes.
It's a giant, it looks like a giant penis.
Oh. Yeah. Let me see that.
It's just this giant thing.
Yeah.
And
you know, it's ironic because he can't read as it is.
Yeah.
But yet he's got this big
it's
library.
Just this giant thing. And it's like, where are you putting that? And why are you building a bunker under the White House? The White House doesn't belong. It's not your building.
Yeah.
You don't own the building. You can't just put stuff there. It's not your house.
Okay. A couple things here in defense of President Trump's future presidential library. Donald Trump's future presidential library looks kind of exactly like any modern skyscraper. Any one. I think it's really nice looking, in fact. I know exactly where this is going in downtown Miami. It's beautiful. It looks a lot like skyscrapers that President Trump has built before. In fact, these are famous architects. Perhaps you know the Freedom Tower, where the Twin Towers once stood in New York. You can see the same spire, the same glass and steel. It looks exactly like President Trump's hotel in Chicago, in fact. This is something that shouldn't shock anyone, frankly, that Trump is building a skyscraper library. And I don't understand the whole dick reference here. Because, you know, this looks just exactly like any skyscraper. Let's go ahead and look. What does a skyscraper look like? Well, they all kind of look the same. They're big, tall buildings. So does Whoopi Goldberg think every single building that is big and tall looks like a dick? Is that what every skyscraper around the world? And there are many, many skyscrapers around the world. Lots and lots of them. Is that what she thinks about literally every one of them? I don't know. Maybe that's a question for Whoopi. Maybe there's something, you know, is this what Whoopi's closet looked like? I don't know. I don't want to know. Like, believe that. And yeah, I'm sorry that I even asked.
1 minute.
To be quite honest with you. Sorry that I have to talk about this at all. I don't want to have to talk about this because it just looks like a skyscraper. She is the pervert here and being a total weirdo, trying to distract, trying to take everyone's attention away from the fact that she's in the Epstein files by making this goofy joke. Anyway, I think that this library looks awesome, quite frankly. The View, on the other hand, is collapsing in ratings, and the people who run The View are like, you know, you're a garbage show. Meanwhile, I don't know, the memes about this are hilarious. No word on what the Obama presidential library looks like. What does this look like? Whoopi? What does that look like? Obama library mogged. Right, exactly. Look at this. Look at the differences between these two. What is this exactly? kind of this makes Obama's library look infinitely worse. Obama's library is hideous. Obama blown the F out. Yes. Whoopi thinks this is beautiful. The stadium trash can, and
Worse than
this
that.
is
Fine, there you go.
something that's gross.
Worse than that.
Look at this. Infinitely better than Obama's monstrosity of a library. It's funny how the differences between the two, because it actually does go to your worldview. The soaring cathedral glass spires uplifting to the heavens is classic Americana Gothic architecture that brings your eyes upwards to scrape the clouds themselves. It shows strength, it shows might, it shows power, and it shows possibility. The brutalist butt plug here is exactly that. It's something that is intended to be hideous and that is intended to bring down the human spirit and soul. There's a reason why Nazis and why the Soviets used brutalist architecture as their favorite architecture, because it shows the enormity of the state, the immovability of the state, how you are nothing compared to the state. It's meant to be ugly. It's not meant to bring your eyes, cast your eyes upward at God. It is meant to make you hang your head low because there's nothing up there. Shut up, look down. The weight, the oppression of the state is meant to show total and complete dominance, not beauty. And that's what brutalist architecture is. And that's, like, frankly, the two different worldviews represented here. That's why it's so confusing to the lady that went on live TV and farted and burped at the same time.
To pay that was gas.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, leave the architectural notes to somebody else. Thank you. You have plenty of other problems. See ya.
He just came out with that one. Give us an update with Whoopi. All right, the last one, the 15-minute one here.
What's up, guys? Spenny. Remember that one time that a pipe bomber took a leisurely stroll all around Capitol Hill carrying a bag of bombs? And in spite of the fact that Capitol Hill is a surveillance fortress, had zero matches on their skin color, eyes, face, no facial recognition software could ever be used, in spite of the fact that the pipe bomber is on their phone constantly, couldn't get any cell phone pings. Cell phone pings are used to solve crimes all the time, by the way. An enormous amount of crimes are solved because the criminal had a phone on them. You can see the pipe bomber here on their phone. Never got anything from that. Strange, right? You'd think the tech would be up to date on Capitol Hill. What about DNA evidence? I mean, look at all of the surfaces that the bomber is touching. You can get DNA evidence from a fleck of skin, a piece of hair, even the moisture in your breath. So the pipe bomber left zero DNA evidence in spite of being all over multiple surfaces for multiple minutes on end. No DNA left on the bombs. These bombs must have been made inside of a very sophisticated laboratory. Oh, and by the way, these bombs have been all but proven completely and totally inoperable. They're not really real. How could a bomb that was set the night before have a 60-minute kitchen timer and be operable and be ready to go off? That doesn't make any sense. They were just about to go off. The authorities tell us, no, they weren't. seems like the authorities actually manipulated an enormous amount of the footage here, sometimes even blurring the footage so that you couldn't get a proper eye color or skin color on the pipe bomber. And then, of course, the biggest tell, when the pipe bombs were found, Secret Service didn't even care. They're like, oh, those are fake. Or they're all just part of the plan. And that was the plan, I guess, to bring Capitol Hill resources away from the Capitol so that President Trump supporters could be framed on January 6th to instigate panic and say that there are bombings going on around D.C. when the bombs aren't even real, and so on and so forth. And so it bothers us to this day, and this bothers us too. I mean, quite frankly. Pam Bondi is apparently getting fired today. We'll see if that happens, but these press conferences that they announced that they had found the pipe bomber, and it was a cold case that languished for 4 years. Who did they announce as the pipe bomber? Well, CNN announced that it was a white guy. It was a black guy, like a black autistic guy, living in a really nice house, in Virginia, in the suburbs. So what's that about? Who's the white black guy? This is funny because Jake Tapper says it's a white man who was caught. No, they say it's a black guy. But here's my problem with this, is that nobody's ever taken the time to explain the motive here. Like, what the hell happened? What's going on? Like, why did this autistic, closeted weirdo black kid living, the life in the suburbs in a mansion, living in a mansion, why did he decide to engage in one of the single most sophisticated operations in American history? Listen, it's totally sophisticated if you think about it. To in a modern day, in this modern day and age, avoid all facial recognition, avoid the ability for people to tell what your skin color is, if you're white or black, what your eye color is, to fully mask who you are when walking through the security state. And then most importantly, to have nobody be able to track your cell phone, nobody be able to track any of your DNA when you're on your phone constantly. Oh, by the way, who was Brian Cole Jr., the person they say was the pipe bomber? Who was he on the phone with? Can we figure that out? Who was he calling? Was he getting orders from somebody if he is in fact the pipe bomber? To leave zero DNA evidence is truly almost scientifically implausible, at this point. You see the pipe bomber wandering the streets. You see the pipe bomber sitting on the bench, rubbing the bench, sitting on the bench for a long time. There's a lot of footage of this. It's been, of course, degraded by the federal authorities. It's been dumbed down. It's been manipulated. Why would they manipulate it? Well, to protect the pipe bomber, obviously. I'm saying none of it makes sense. That's all I'm saying. And this don't make no sense either. Okay? And I'm sorry. I'm the kind of guy that says, show your work. And they haven't showed their work. Nobody's explained why Brian Cole, this 30-year-old, goofball, was planting pipe bombs and was able to pull off the most sophisticated op in history against our federal government, to hide from the authorities for 4 straight years. The FBI said that all the evidence was sitting just right there to arrest Brian Cole. Before Brian Cole Jr. was announced as the pipe bomber and that he had been arrested, this story was published in The Blaze, saying that there was a forensic match for a member of the Capitol Hill Police.
Base 44 super agents. The next thing you can't live without. No setup. Just say hello.
Of course. This was, of course, disputed afterward, and the Blaze had to eventually write a correction. And they had to, effectively take down their report. Nonetheless, there's been some fascinating and new information that has now reignited this conversation online. An innocent woman's name was tied to the January 6th pipe bomb. CBS News here reporting that a innocent woman who was named, she was a Capitol Hill police officer. Now she works at the CIA because, of course, And you know that this is who the Blaze speculated was the actual pipe bomber. Well, that's quite a huge bombshell that a Capitol Hill police officer was in on this, and that she works at the CIA. Well, boy, that would stand to reason. Anyway, they took the article down. It was refuted, whatever, by the federal authorities. Now this breaks. Look at this. Former Capitol Hill police officer Shawnee Kirchhoff
We'll see you tomorrow.
failed a FBI polygraph test when asked if she placed the pipe bombs on January 5th, 2021, the court case states. Shawnee Kirchhoff was named as the person of interest. Pipe bomb investigation. Kirchhoff was a U.S. Capitol Police officer. She was present at the Capitol on that date. Kirchhoff now works for the Central Intelligence Agency because, of course, according to the discovery produced by the government in the case, the FBI began investigating, questioning, and covertly surveilling Ms. Kirchhoff during the time it began investigating Mr. Cole. Kirchhoff was interviewed by the FBI and took polygraph examinations. She was asked relevant questions like, did you place the pipe bomb? Did you place the pipe bombs that evening? And she failed her polygraph. The FBI polygraph examiner noted that Kirchhoff's very controlled reaction to the news of her failing the polygraph. Okay. All right. Former Capitol Hill police officer, current CIA employee Kirchhoff, and a person of interest failed the lie detector test before the famous Blaze article was published. This looks like defamation suits. FBI Dan Bongino told me he would personally finance against me are a bust. Oh boy, it's Thomas Massey coming over the top. Dan Bongino now fighting with Thomas Massey. You're a sitting U.S. representative, Tom. Please try to preserve a sliver of dignity. There's an ongoing criminal trial case, and the individual in this case is a U.S. citizen entitled to due process. Your relentless bloviating and absurd public commentary, ongoing very serious criminal matter, which you know little to nothing about, is beneath the office you hold. Okay, what I'm trying to say here is that you have to be able to make your case. Like, this is the thing that I followed this really closely. Nobody's explained any motive or anything. Like, right? Like, nobody's explained any motive. Nobody's like done anything to like explain to the public that like you have the right guy here. That's all I'm asking for. All right. I'm not saying I know. I don't have the files. I don't have the information. Okay. I'm not trying to defame people or harm anyone, but like, well, you got to be able to make the case. This is public opinion here. 6 days after she failed the FBI lie detector, you told me on the phone that you would finance civil defamation cases on her behalf. It's very inappropriate for an FBI deputy director. Perhaps at that point, the FBI hadn't even told you, the deputy director, that she had failed the polygraph, says Thomas Massey. Uh-oh. Oh, boy. Thomas Massey has all the tough guys in his corner. Oh, boy. So this has now started sort of a war between Thomas Massey and Dan Bongino. Thomas Massey is a liar, grifter, and fraud. Thanks. Have a good morning. You know, and I don't really like the whole like flamethrower stuff here. But obviously, I would really like to see all of the evidence laid out, please. Thomas Massey is a fraud. Thank you. Have a great day. Obviously, Bongino's posted a lot about Thomas Massey, including screenshots and stuff. People are saying these the screenshots recycled the same November 2025 call logs. They show contact occurred, but did not refute the J6 pipe bomb whistleblower letter, mishandling retaliation, or Massey's staff threat claims. Bongino left the FBI in 2026. So they're going like sort of after each other here. Thomas Massey and Dan Bongino sort of racking up some views on this, but it's, you know, getting kind of ugly. Dan, in your first call, on which I think was the first and last occasion that you and I ever spoke, you seemed upset that I had received and had released FBI whistleblower information about the pipe bomb investigation. I informed you that your staff had threatened to criminally investigate my staff as retribution. Yikes. You threatened to personally finance the defamation suit against reporters on behalf of the suspect. Perhaps it was also a veiled threat to sue me. You said those depositions aren't going to be fun for the people involved or something like that. Deputy FBI director shouldn't be financing civil lawsuits against reporters. You said that you were going to call every agent and get to the bottom of the whistleblower issue. and you offered me a briefing, but I was going to be tied up until 6 p.m. on the Epstein Files Transparency Act. So I asked, how late could the briefing go? And you said you were going to leave the office at 5 o'clock. I asked a few questions on the call, and your answers indicated to me that you were perhaps less informed than me on some of the issues, and you were going to be less than forthcoming. A few hours after the call, I received and released new FBI whistleblower information regarding an all-hands meeting related to the concern that the meeting was called to out the whistleblowers. Okay. What's going on with the timestamps? People are saying that Dan Bongino's phone was set to Israel's time zone. Okay. Again, so now Thomas Massey is joking about the ratios. Here's Steve Baker is the original author of the report. To all of those who have criticized the attack on me for the last 5 months, I forgive you. I do not forgive Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. I demand Patel's dismissal immediately. Lots more to come. So it sounds like there is going to be more to come on this. I want to make it very clear. I'm not trying to stoke the fires here. I have done a lot of reads and covered a lot of stories and yelled until my voice cracked on this show about the pipe bomber. So you deserve, on this channel, you deserve to know the truth about what happened. And do we have the truth? I don't know. I want it. But we seem to now be getting very different stories. Is there any explanation as to why this Capitol Police officer, current CIA employee, is failing polygraphs about these simple questions? Either planted the pipe bombs or you didn't. Is there any explanation as to who the hell this guy is? And why would he plant pipe bombs? Anything? Nothing? I don't know. I just it's a lot of, it's like with a lot of things, you need to verify the stuff and then trust, right? And it's not trust but verify. It's verify then trust, right? You have to show your work. Be like, trust me, bro, move along. Stuff doesn't work anymore. We have to be convinced that you have the right guy for the pipe bomb. We're just not convinced. The story makes no sense, is all I'm saying. So maybe tell your stories better. Give us more evidence. Give us more, right? The American people are smart. We're very forgiving. It's obviously the way to do it. Anyway, it's been maddening. This whole thing's been maddening. It's been rage-inducing, honestly. Just like the Epstein files. But we'll keep going. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. See ya.
All right. Finishing off with the last two with Benny there tonight. All right. So, another day of intel. A lot of big stuff going on. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Tomorrow's Friday already. Friday tomorrow. We'll see what tomorrow brings. So thanks to mods. Okay, Flanagan, Carol, Lucy, Tim. And so God bless everybody. Love all. Remember, the new people, please go to the description box and sub to the backup channels. Thank you. And stay safe, stay strong, keep your faith. Never give up. Another full day of intel. Till tomorrow, unless something develops overnight or in the middle of the night. Signing off, Chico and Dude. See you tomorrow, guys.